I started going to the gym in 2023, and it was probably the best decision of my life. I now feel healthier, I feel stronger, I feel more confident within myself because I've worked very hard on something that is good for my future. And within 3 years, I built a physique going from this skinny ass guy to this buff ass dude. I don't even know if you could call that buff, but I believe it is a good transformation. And even though it took me 3 years to do it, a lot of the stuff I've been doing wasn't really optimized for my growth. And I believed you can really, really achieve it in 1.5 years if you're doing the right things. So let's get straight into it. First of all, you need to make sure you're training the right muscles. So, to build a good physique and to be stronger, there are 7 muscles for your aesthetics and also for your strength, obviously. And they are the upper traps. So these are your upper traps, your neck, your upper chest, your delts, which are your shoulders, and then you got your biceps, your lats, which are the muscles underneath your armpits or besides your armpits, and you got your abs. And you need to make sure you're including these muscles within your training routine. They are often under prioritized and even skipped, which is insane in my opinion because a lot of the training programs out there, for some reason they just don't include these muscles and you end up getting as strong, you end up getting very strong, very powerful, but then your physique somewhat looks off and you get this sort of blocky physique, not the V taper that we all dream of having, right? So make sure you include those muscles within your training routine. Next thing is training frequency and volume. Now, as a beginner, you should train 3 times a week. And for those 3 occasions that you do go to the gym, make sure you train a pull day where you're training your pulling muscles, you have a push day training your pushing muscles, and you have a leg day training your leg muscles. And this should cover all the muscles that are on your body for a well rounded physique. Now, the order of these training days are also important, and that is why I've put pull first and then push and then leg. Okay? I'll talk about it more later. It has to do with how you recover and some exercises from different sessions overlap with each other. So just follow this routine that I'm gonna give you and you should be all good. And the next thing is when you are training, just train 2 sets per exercise, okay? Given that you train to failure to the point where you physically cannot perform the movement anymore, you can't even stop moving the barbell, that kind of stuff. Given that you're training to failure, 2 sets is enough to give you enough stimulus for your muscle growth. Okay, a lot of people they train like crazy, right? They do 3 sets, which is kind of fine, but then some people they do 4 sets, 5 sets, and then they do like a bunch of different exercises, which is good for variety, but they are just having way too many sets, and that builds up so much fatigue. And up to a certain point of stimulating your muscles, there is such a thing called junk volume. So make sure you train only 2 sets per exercise. That is enough to stimulate your muscles for muscle growth, and you don't want to go more than that because if you are training hard enough and you do way too many sets, what's going to happen is you're going to be way more fatigued, even though you're not increasing your gain potential, your muscle hypertrophy potential. So just make sure to do two sets per exercise. That is more than enough. Okay, the next thing is exercise selection. Now, this is where I'm going to give you sort of a routine to follow, where you have a list of exercises that you're going to do for your pull, your push, and your leg day. And if you do these exercises within the 3 days that you go to the gym, you should be all set to achieve the physique that I have in half the time that it took me. So let's get straight into it. The first thing is pull day. Now, for your pull day, you're gonna want to have an exercise where you're pulling vertically downwards. You're gonna want to have an exercise where you're pulling horizontally towards your body, and you're gonna want an exercise where you're pulling vertically upwards. Okay? This is very important because it's gonna train the muscles that I have talked about, where you should include in your training routine. So vertically down is going to train your lats, and then horizontally is going to train your traps. Vertically up is going to train your upper traps. So they're very important for your physique. You're gonna have an exercise for your rear delts. You're gonna have two for your biceps, and you're gonna have an abs exercise. And very interestingly, we're gonna have a neck finisher. Okay. So with your vertically down exercises, you're gonna want to use a narrow grip pull down. The reason why I've used a narrow grip here is because it emphasizes more on your lower lats, which is very important for your V taper. A lot of people, when they train lats, they use a wide grip, and studies have shown that using a wide grip doesn't cause as much of a stretch for your lats. So then you're still gonna develop very wide lats, but your lower lats might be underdeveloped, and that gives you not a V taper, but I don't know, like a Y taper. I don't know what you should call it. So yeah, you've got a narrow grip pull down, and then for your horizontal, you've got a narrow grip cable row, a horizontal one. I'll probably put a video of me doing it on the screen so you know which exercise to do. You're gonna have a vertical shrug and row hybrid. So this is where you're combining a shoulder shrug but also doing a row vertically. So then you're training your upper traps but also your rear delts at the same time, which is bang for your buck. And then you've got your main rear delts exercise, which is a reverse cable fly. Now with this one, I'm going to put a video on the screen again. Make sure you're going from a higher to a lower angle, preferably 45 degrees, because your rear delts get stimulated on a 45-degree angle. So I know this is a lot of information for you, especially if you're just starting out, but just bear with me and everything's gonna be fine. Just follow exactly as I'm saying. So you have two for your biceps. These are very simple. Do any variation of a bicep curl and do any variation of a hammer curl. It does not matter which variation you do. It's going to stimulate enough growth given that you train to failure and do enough volume. And then going to have your neck finisher, which I will talk about more towards the end of the video because it's sort of a routine on its own. So that's your pull day, everyone. Make sure you are doing these exercises that covers all the aesthetics muscles while also getting you stronger and more powerful. Next thing is your push day. So with your push day, we're gonna have one fly exercises. This trains your chest muscles with a very wide range of motion, which is good for your chest growth, but also for your joint health. And then you're gonna have an incline pressing exercises. Oh, sorry, an incline press exercise, which trains your upper chest. You're gonna have a horizontal press, which trains your mid chest. We're not gonna do a decline press because that trains your lower chest, which ruins the aesthetics of your front body, which I was talking about. You should prioritize your upper chest, not your lower chest. Mid chest is fine because mid chest built that width, but lower chest gives you a very weird sort of triangular chest shape that you don't want to have. And then we've got the front delt exercise, and we've got the side delts exercise, and then got the two triceps, and then again a neck finisher. So with the fly, you're just gonna do any variation of chest flies. Any variation is fine. You can do one of those machines where you're just sitting and they have these handles for you to what is it called? Adduct your shoulders together. And then for the incline, you could do an incline bench press or any incline pressing machine. That'll do. I prefer doing machines because they're more stabilized and I just enjoy doing them more because I can move the weights up and down more easily in case I want to do drop sets or anything like that. Since you're probably a beginner watching this video, a drop set is where you have trained to failure, but you want to push yourself a little bit harder, so you reduce the weight by about 20 to 30% and pump out a few more reps. This is going to give you much more stimulus on the muscles, which might induce more muscle growth. So after the incline press, we've got the horizontal bench press. So you can do either a bench press again or a machine. It doesn't really matter, whichever one you enjoy more. And then we've got a shoulder press to train your front delts. And also, interestingly, also somewhat trains your side delts as well. So once again, bang for your buck exercise. And then we've got your lateral raises, which trains your side delts. And for the lateral raise, I would like to say You can't really overtrain your delts, so you can just go crazy on these lateral raises, given that you've got good form, train with good tempo. But yeah, with lateral raises, just go to failure, go crazy on them. And then you've got your tricep push downs, and you've got your overhead tricep extensions. So those are the two tricep exercises. The push down trains more of the lower part of your tricep. I'm gonna try to make this simple for you guys. And then the overhead trains the upper portions of your triceps. If you want the scientific terms for it, there is a bunch of research online, all the videos that talk about it. This video is gonna dumb down these concepts as much as possible so then you can go and start training without, over complicating the gym for you. And then again, we've got the neck finisher at the end. So with the push day, we've got a combination of chest, triceps, and shoulder exercises, which are your pushing muscles. And they're a good variety, good enough to train your chest. You should get six, or I guess 6.5 or 7 sets, because your shoulder press somewhat trains your upper chest as well. And they've got your shoulder exercises. They've got the shoulder press and lateral raise, and they've got the triceps from the push down and the overhead. This should adequately train your pushing muscles and give you enough muscle growth, once again, to build strength and build that aesthetic physique that you've always wanted. Now we're gonna move on to leg day. So with your leg day, we're gonna have two hamstring exercises, one quad exercise, one hip abductor and one hip adductor exercise, and then we've got a calves, which are usually undertrained. I believe my calves are still not as good as they could be, but I'm training them, so hopefully we'll see results. We've got one squats exercise for your entire leg, so those are the compound lift. They train your quads, but also your hamstrings. And once again, we've got the abs exercise, and then the neck finisher at the end as well. So don't worry, I'll explain to you what the neck finisher is eventually. But as you can see, we put a bit more of an emphasis on the hamstrings compared to the quads, your quadriceps, which are the muscles at the front of your leg. The reason why we've put more of an emphasis on your hamstrings is because your quads are usually trained more and also used more in your daily lives. So your hamstrings are usually underdeveloped. And even when you are training in the gym, squats bias your quads. And then we've already got the quad exercise that we're going to do, the isolation. So we'll put more of an emphasis on the hamstring isolated exercises to make sure they're not going to be undeveloped in the long run. So anyway, we'll get into the leg day. So we've got your deadlift. Any variation of deadlift should do. I prefer doing Romanian deadlifts. And then after that, I'll go and do hamstring curls. Those two exercises should adequately stimulate your hamstrings. And then we've got the leg extensions. This one is probably my favorite exercises of the leg session because I can really feel the burn on my quads when I do them. Make sure to go to failure on this because I know a lot of people that train legs, go on the leg extensions, and do not go to failure on this exercise. Simply because it burns like a motherfucker. It burns so freaking hard. And when you do really go to failure on this exercise, you'll know what I mean. It hurts like hell. And then after the leg extensions, we've got the sus machines. These are the ones where you are abducting your hip and adducting your hip. I'll just do a quick search to show you what the what the hip what the sus machines are. Just so you know, you can find them in the gym. They're these machines. You'll probably see them once you go into the gym. They're the ones where you move your hips together, and then there's another variant, which is this one where you're separating the hips. They're not so important for your physique, but they will help you stabilize and improve your. Sorry, just one sec. They're not so important for your physique, but they do help stabilize your legs when you're doing squats, which sort of indirectly helps with building bigger quads and hamstrings. So in the long run, it does help with building your physique, but also in your daily lives, like when you have strong hip abductor and hip adductor muscles, you're just gonna be so much more stable, and your legs just gonna be bulletproof, strong as fuck. And then we've got the so those were the sus machines, and then we've got the calf raises. With calf raises, I prefer doing the shoulder pads machine because with shoulder pads machines, you get a deeper of a stretch when you're at the bottom because your calves get stretched more when you're standing up. And I haven't said it in the video yet, but the bigger the stretch on your muscles, the better they'll grow. That's just a concept that's been researched and proven by scientists. So talk to them, not me. So yeah, standing calf raises, shoulder pad ones are good at the gym. And then we've got your squats. Now with squats, any variance is fine. I like doing hack squats because they're very stable for me. Barbell squats hasn't been a really an exercise that I've really done. It's not an exercise that I want to do because I haven't really learned to stabilize myself. Maybe I should learn to do proper barbell squats in the future because it might be good for your joints health or whatever. But I like doing machine squats. Hack squats are good. They already stabilize for me, and I get a really good stimulus of my quads and my hamstrings when I do it. And I can just push to failure without worrying about, injuring myself because when you're doing barbell and free weight exercises, if you do hit failure, it's very common for people to get injured and because they're not as stable when they go to failure, and with the free weights you could just do some stupid stuff and injure yourself. But anyway, after the leg session, we've got an ab finisher. So once again, leg raises. I haven't said this yet, but with leg raises, if you can find a machine where, not a machine, but I guess in a way it is a machine where you have a pad behind your back that you can lean on, please use that machine for your leg raises because it's gonna stabilize you so much better. You can focus on just raising your leg and crunching harder, as opposed to doing hanging leg raises where you have to use your grip, and your grip might be a limiting factor when you're doing hanging leg raises. Me personally, I do hanging leg raises simply because I like to work on my grip. It's a sort of a weak point of mine. I want to build more forearms as well. But if you're just starting out, just go and do leg raises where you have a machine that stabilizes you. It's gonna help you build your abs quicker. And then afterwards, after all that, I've got the neck finisher. So now we're gonna talk about the neck finisher. Finally. Okay, neck. I would like to talk a little bit about the neck. So, the neck is a muscle that 99% of people, I swear to God, don't train because they just go, oh, I don't need to train the neck. I want to have a sleeper physique. All these dumb excuses. In reality, if they were to have a big neck, or if they were given the option to have a big neck, all of them would say yes. Because why? Just imagine yourself. Okay, actually, instead of imagining yourself, I'm just gonna give you an example of myself. If you look at this picture of me before I started going to the gym, look at that. Look at how skinny my neck is. Okay, it just make you look so much worse. And you just if you have a skinny neck, even if you've had a good physique, you still somewhat look skinny. And me myself, I've only trained neck for the past few months, but it's really made my physique look better. As you can see, I don't look so skinny anymore simply because I have a thicker neck and I'm still working on it. So having a thick neck really helps you look better with your aesthetics, with your physique. And even if you have a big body, even if you look jacked as hell, if your neck is skinny, you'll look off and you'll look somewhat skinny. You'll look like a skinny guy in a in a big body, if you get what I mean. And also your neck is the first muscle that people see when you're wearing a shirt, and when you're wearing a shirt, biceps get covered, it's only your forearms and your neck that show. So your neck is a very important muscle for your aesthetics and also for your health as well, because your neck stabilizes your head in case you get into some high force accident or something. It also helps with spinal health because it stabilizes your head, and when you're sitting for long hours, your neck muscles also help with stabilizing your back and your spine. I can't really express it well, but there's research online that proves this. So I'm gonna stop yapping and sound like a stupid ass dude. But anyway, moving on to the neck finisher, we've got three exercises, okay? And I know that the training routine that I've given you includes quite a lot of exercises. If you've had another neck routine on top of the exercises that you've already done for your session, I know you might go crazy. You're like, oh my god, this is too much. I don't want to go to the gym anymore. So with this neck finisher, you've got three exercises, but you can superset them, okay? Now what supersetting is you are doing an exercise right after another exercise without any rest. So I apologize for not mentioning this earlier, but for all of these exercises, you're gonna want to have a 3 to 5 minute rest in between the sets and the exercises, depending on how fatigued you are and how quickly you feel like you've recovered. For the next set, a guideline is to rest for as long as you need so that when you start the next set, you feel fresh and you feel like you can push with your 100% potential. So, anyway, we're gonna superset with this neck finisher. And what supersetting is you're doing two exercises back to back within the same, how do I explain this? You're gonna simultaneously do two exercises together without any rest between the sets. So how this is gonna work is we're gonna superset curl and extension. So what's gonna happen is you will do your neck curl, and then after you've done with your first set of neck curl, you're gonna move on to your first set of neck extension. Okay, so no rest in between. We're gonna get straight into the next exercise, even though we're doing two of them simultaneously together. So we've got the curl and extension supersetted together, and then after we've done those two exercises, we've got the side extension or curl, whatever you want to call it. So even though you've got three exercises, we only realistically need enough time to do two exercises, which save you a lot of time, and not effort, just save you a lot of time, and it might save your sanity in the long run when you are training and feel like your workout feels like it's lasting forever. So with the curling exercises, we've got the plate neck curl, and then with the extension, we've got the plate neck extension, and with the side neck curl, we've got the dumbbell side neck curl. The reason why I use plate for the first two and dumbbell for the third exercise is simply preference. You can use a plate if you want to. I feel like a dumbbell is more comfortable for me to control when I'm on the side and, moving my head on the side. But that's besides the point. With these exercises, when you are training your neck, make sure to bring a towel or beanie so that when you lie the dumbbell or plate on your head, you don't create an indent on your head, which you definitely do not want. So that was the neck finisher, and then now we're gonna move on to diet. So with your diet, since you're gonna want to make a transformation to look bigger but still look lean, you're gonna want a caloric surplus. Now what a caloric surplus is you're eating above your daily calorie maintenance. So to find out your daily calorie maintenance, I'm not sure if there's a way you can calculate it. It's more about trial and error. So you need to know how many calories you're consuming each day, and then you're gonna add a 200 calorie surplus on top of that. So this is gonna make sure you're gonna gain weight so you can actually build muscle. This is how it works. If you don't gain weight, there's less potential for you to build muscle. You can do a thing called recomping where you stay at the same weight, but you recomp your body fat and stuff, and you build muscle while losing fat. You can't build muscle as quick that way. And in my opinion, if you do a lean bulk with a small caloric surplus, you'll still look as good, if not better, since you're bigger and you actually have more muscle on you, so you have a better frame, a better physique overall. And when you are in this caloric surplus, make sure to eat clean, whole foods. When people start bulking, what ends up happening is they eat dirty food, they eat junk food, fast food, right? Because they have the excuse of trying to get the calories inside of their body. And what this actually does to you is, even though you're eating the same number of calories, same macronutrients, same protein, fat, whatever, what ends up happening is the fast food has these chemicals and these shit ingredients that messes with your hormones. Okay, a prime example of this is seed oils, and I believe that fast food has a shit amount of these seed oils, and they affect your testosterone. And when you have lower testosterone because you're consuming fast food and these weird ass chemicals damaging your testosterone, you're not going to build muscle as quick. So what ends up happening is, even though you're eating the same calories, same protein, whatever, you're building muscle at a slower rate compared to the guy that hits the same macros, the same protein, same calories, but he eats clean foods and healthy food that is good for his body. And also, bro, you'll just be healthy in the long term. So why have that risk of not having the same physique that you can have, but also damaging your long-term health and longevity? So make sure to eat clean and whole foods. And with the macro, the main macros you're going to worry about is calories and protein. So calories we've already spoken about. Protein, you're going to want to have 0.8 grams of protein per pound of lean body weight. Okay, this is very important. So make sure to have 0.8 grams of protein per pound of lean body weight. Okay, lean body weight, this is very important. A lot of people, they consume 0.8 grams per pound of their entire body weight. And what ends up happening is your lean body weight only considers your lean body mass without considering the fat content. So yeah, what ends up happening is some people, they have a 20% body fat percentage or even 30% body fat percentage, but they still consume 0.8 grams per pound of their entire body weight. So they end up having an excess amount of protein, which could contribute to building on more fat instead of just sticking to their lean bulking phase that they're currently in. So make sure to know your body fat percentage. You can search up what different percentages of body fat look like online, and you can sort of gauge what percentage of body fat you're at, and just calculate the amount of protein that you should be consuming. It doesn't have to be exact, it just needs to roughly be correct, and you'll be just fine. Remember, it's all about sustainability here. So if you're not going to sustain this diet and also the training routine that you're doing, you're not going to stick to it and make no progress in the long term anyway. So just roughly following the guide is fine. You don't have to be absolutely correct. So the next point is basically on this. So you're going to want to temporarily track your diet using a nutrition app. Any nutrition app with a calorie tracker and your macronutrients tracker should be fine. I like to use MyFitnessPal, and you want to use them to gauge your diet in the short term, or to know exactly what you're eating in the short term, so you can gauge your diet without going crazy over the numbers in the long term. Because if you keep going crazy over these numbers over and over and over again, you're probably gonna give up on this fitness journey in the long term, and we don't want that. So just track your diet for a short time, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, and then you'll know roughly how much calories is in this much rice or in this amount of chicken. So then in the long term, you can just gauge how much nutrients you're consuming without having to use like an app or a tracker that drives you crazy. And another thing about diet is, on your training or on your cardio days, if you do cardio, I do suggest you doing cardio. It's very healthy for you. It actually helps you with pushing harder in the gym on your failure sets. But yeah, on your training or on your cardio days, make sure to eat about 500 more calories, because when you train or when you do a moderate to high cardio activity, you burn roughly about 500 calories an hour, which is usually the time that you do that activity for. So since you burn 500 more calories, you're going to want to eat 500 more calories back in. Otherwise, you won't be in a surplus, but you might even be in a cut, and we don't want that. We want a surplus to build size and build more muscle for our physique. And again, just eating roughly 500 more calories. You don't have to go too crazy about this. As I've already said, roughly is fine. You don't want to be exact because it might drive you crazy and make you give up in the long term, and we don't want that. So in summary, make sure you are training the right muscles with the right training frequencies, which is 3 times a week and 2 sets per exercise. Don't do more than 2 sets because 2 sets is adequate, is all that you need for your muscle stimulus to build more muscle and stimulate that growth. Make sure that you eat clean and whole food, because if you eat fast food just to get the calories and the protein in, even if you hit the same macronutrients and the calories, clean food just helps you build better muscle because it doesn't mess up your hormones, all that stuff. And when you're eating these clean food, make sure to have a caloric surplus of 200 to 500 calories. I think I made a mistake here. It should be 200 to 700 calories. The 500 extra calories will be on your training days or on the days that you do a cardio activity. Personally, I play sports, so when I have a day where I play badminton or tennis or I do martial arts, on those days I'll consume about 500 more calories of food so that I'm still on the surplus and I don't accidentally cut where I eat below my maintenance calories, so I lose weight. And then the last thing is 0.8 grams of protein per pound of lean body weight. Okay, lean body weight with like considering your fat content. So just find out what your body fat percentage is and then determine your protein consumption based on that. The main things you need to worry about when you're on this fitness journey trying to build muscle is calories and protein. When you're bulking, have more calories than your daily maintenance, and when you're cutting, which is when you're trying to lose fat, have less calories than your daily maintenance. But in both cases of bulking and cutting, make sure to have your daily protein so that you are either maintaining your muscles or you're building muscles. And that's the main gist of bodybuilding. And that's all for this beginner's guide to starting the gym, making this 3-year transformation of a physique that I have, turning it into a 1.5-year transformation, which I think is very doable under the right circumstances. And if you train the right muscles that I have laid out with the correct frequency, 3 times a week, 2 sets per exercise, with a 3 to 5 minute rest in between, you are for sure gonna have a 1.5-year physique transformation that I've built on myself. And yeah, like honestly, just turn your brain off and just do the stuff that I've said in this video, because training doesn't have to be complicated and it's supposed to be enjoyable. Actually, if you love the process, you are gonna build the physique that you want if you stick to it enough for enough time. So it's been a very long video. If you guys have stuck through all this, thank you a lot for watching this video. I hope you will take the stuff I've said in this video and apply it to your training routine and see your physique transform. Until next time, I'm gonna now sign out. Goodbye.